And Hedwana, just to give a brief little bit of historical background, was a Sumero-Akkadian high priestess. She had a great deal of power, and she has 42 hymns attributed to her, and she was the son of Sargon the Great. If any of you have heard of him, he's an important early Sumero-Akkadian ruler who was, he wrote, or one of the first systems of law is actually attributed to him. So this is the tail end. It's a little bit long, so I wanted to read the whole thing, but I'm just going to skip to the end here. And what's happened, what she's describing is, she has been exiled from Ur and is living in a different city. So this is a... And she was the high priestess to Nanna, who is the moon god in Ur and the patron god of Ur. But this is actually a prayer to Inanna, basically calling for vengeance upon her enemies, but also, she's also kind of beseeching the gods at the same time. Must I die because of my holy songs? My Nana has paid no heed to me, has not decided my case. He has destroyed me utterly in renegade territory. Ashim Babar has certainly not pronounced a verdict on me. What is it to me if he has pronounced it? What is it to me if he has not pronounced it? He stood there in triumph and drove me out of the temple. He made me fly like a swallow from the window. I have exhausted my life strength. He made me walk through the thorn bushes of the mountains. He stripped me of the rightful crown of the En priestess. He gave me a knife and dagger, saying to me, "These are appropriate ornaments for you. Most precious lady, beloved by An, your holy heart is great. May it be assuaged on my behalf. Beloved spouse of Ushum Gal Ana, you are the great lady of the horizon and zenith of the heavens. The Anuna have submitted to you. From birth you were the junior queen. How supreme you are now over the Anuna, the great gods. The Anuna kiss the ground with their lips before you. But my own trial is not yet concluded. Although a hostile verdict encloses me as if it were my own verdict, I did not reach out my hands to the flower bed. I did not reveal the pronouncements of Ningal to anybody. My lady beloved of An, may your heart be calm towards me, the brilliant En priestess of Nanna. It must be known, Nanna has not yet spoken out. He has said, he is yours. Be it known that you are lofty as the heavens. Be it known that you are broad as the earth. Be it known that you destroy the rebel lands. Be it known that you roar at the foreign lands. Be it known that you crush heads. Be it known that you devour corpses like a dog. Be it known that your gaze is terrible. Be it known that you lift your terrible gaze. Be it known that you have flashing eyes. Be it known that you are unshakable and unyielding. Be it known that you always stand triumphant. That Nana has not yet spoken out, and he has said, he is yours, has made you greater, my lady. You have become the greatest. My lady, beloved by An, I shall tell of all your rages. I have heaped up the coals in the censer and prepared the purification rites. The Eshtem Kug shrine awaits you. Might your heart not be appeased towards me? Since it was full, too full for me, great exalted lady, I have recited this song for you. May a singer repeat to you at noon that which was recited to you at dead of night. Because of your captive spouse, because of your captive child, your rage is increased, your heart unassuaged. The powerful lady, respected in the gathering of rulers, has accepted her offerings from her. Inanna's holy heart has been assuaged. The light was sweet for her. Delight extended over her. She was full of fairest beauty. Like the light of the rising moon, she exuded delight. Nanna came out to gaze at her properly, and her mother Ningal blessed her. The door posts greeted her. Everyone's speech to the mistress is exalted. Praise be to the destroyer of foreign lands, endowed with divine powers by An, to my lady enveloped in beauty, to Inanna. And yeah, that's it.
Thanks, David. And then next we're going to hear from Russ. There he is. I think I might have interrupted him doing some reading, some light reading.
You interrupted what?
It looked like you were doing some reading while you
No,
were introducing him.
just a little Burt's Bees. Speaking of following David, it's interesting. I don't know how long I've known you, David, but it's got to be about 10 years ago, and it was shortly after some infamous David Nelson did the shoe thing or something. And my own father, his name is David Nelson, so I confirmed that it wasn't David. It wasn't my dad. My dad did get watch listed because of having that name. I don't know if that happened to you or not, but that was something I remember talking about you with back then about 10 years ago when there used to be a late night Denny's scene in this town. A place for poets who are awake to go and talk. That doesn't exist anymore. Rainey, can you remember the name of that gentleman, about 91 years old there, that was at the last Barnes & Noble?
Oh, wow. No, I'm awful.
Somebody said something about, I think I heard it from Tony, but also Kurt, about not doing a lot of personal things. And I've been kind of the opposite. I do a lot of personal things that maybe a lot more philosophical or such. But the activist poet is what, I think his name was Sam, maybe, I'm not sure. But he was saying, he was amazing. He was 91 years old, and he did this long piece that was historical, talking about the Tuskegee Airmen and his connection to them. He was also a flyer as well, and how they worked together to save each other. But what struck me is some of the comments he was making when we were on our way out, and he was putting out a challenge that all of us poets not be afraid to influence change and to be activist poets. I don't know a lot about him, but I understand Ginsberg was an activist poet, and he recognized that comment. So there's a challenge for all of us to become activist poets. As far as announcements go, I've been holding on to this one because I haven't done my research yet, but maybe there's someone who can take me up on a challenge to go and perform on local, it's not cable access exactly, I'm not sure what it calls itself. It's not CBTV, but Fort Vancouver Television, FVTV. They have an open mic kind of format, but I'm sure it's quite open. Twice a month right now is one window, and then fourth Thursday. So if anybody ever wants to go and check this out with me, it's nearby in the neighborhood, somewhere in the Minnehaha area. They have their studio twice a month. It's channel 11 if you have Comcast. Well, I don't have that, so I haven't seen it. And I'll do more research, but if anybody wants to go on a fourth Thursday, let's do that. So what I have to share tonight, wow, somebody tall there, a little taller. It's not my own, but sci-fi poetry. I never would have thought of this until we found, looking through stuff in a recent move, Asimov's science fiction, and there was poetry in here. Whoa, what do you know? So there's two pieces. The first is called Origami Rockets. They float to the moon in origami rockets, astronauts from a childhood fantasy. The moon smells like a green apple. They walk freely on its skin without helmets or spacesuits. They build a town, stores and houses, schools and libraries, a street fair with lots of free parking, and the moon people come to live there. Up from their craters and their moon caves, a gentle, sleepy race, just the right sort to carry our dreams. The poet is Bruce Boston. And also, this is called Galileo Flies Over Callisto and Detects Signs of a Magnetic Field. Giant planets, huge blind eye, battered spacecraft, cratered moon, coast silent through dark, soft caress. Magnetic field, spore of salty oceans, deep. Barren, rocky, cratered moon, soft caress, magnetic field, hidden sea, home of life. The poet is Jeffrey A. Landis.
And next we have Lori Loringer.
Yo. I'm always picking up prompts at different events, and then they lay around my house, and I discover them under things later. And I'm not very good with rules, but this one was must have been from one of Stephen Constance's things. But the prompt was to describe a color to someone who's colorblind. I came close. This is called Describing Autumn to My Colorblind Dog. Biscuit, do you hear it? The falling of the leaves? They flutter dry and golden, squeakily clinging in torrential rain, regaining crispness when the wind returns. Their vivid freshness has gone, no chlorophylled resilience to ease their browning fall, no new grass aroma. Just moldering dampness, foreboding colder nights, gathering in piles together for warmth and comfort in their final days. They reek of darkening molds, sparkle in rare sunlight moments with decaying remnants of orange and burnt yellow, like the taste of warm honey or the smell of mulling spices. Do you smell it, old girl, when you sniff the breeze? The ozonized bite of change in the air? And this is called Roller Coaster. Everything sags in the middle, see? It really is a roller coaster. There are deep places and light ones. Some stuff is real heavy and other stuff floats and rises. We are grounded by the stuff that weighs more. It drops and settles and becomes the very earth that is ground. We are freed by the rising movement of love and joy, the weightless glory of flying. Without the balance of forces, we would sink in or fly off completely. Instead, our bodies linger atop the ground below the sky, while our insides sink and rise, and we try to decide whether to shriek with joy or just throw up.
I love roller coasters, but I have a thing where if I do anything where I go upside down, I puke, so I don't get to go on them as much as I would like. I like the experience until it's over, and then it's really bad for me.
It's fun till it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of rides that can get intense but that are always great fun, we have Dennis McBride. How's that for an introduction?
I was thinking of Nathan's comment on what good is poetry. And I happened to be reading this book at some point, Otsego Park, and that was apparently a place, someplace back east, where they made the decision actually where to drop the bomb. Originally it was for Yokota, and they met there, and there happened to be an art scholar there, and he convinced them that Yokota was a repository of art, and there were poets and paintings, and so somehow he managed to convince them to switch to Hiroshima. So what good is poetry? It depends on whether you live in Yokota or Hiroshima.
Wow.
I don't know why that was in my mind, just there. I did want to say, one of our job descriptions here, it seems like, is in being alive, is reinventing home. And Chris Luna and Tony are kind of a rotating, revolving foundation for home. So if you need a place to live, just go over. I live near a place, I live at the end of my block is a motel. It's called the City of Red Roses Motel. And gradually the lights fell off, and so it changed. Anyway, this is a personal history thing. It happened over the years. The T and the Y fell off a City of Red Roses motel sign just after the Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy assassinations. We meant to get it fixed, but it just seemed we'd misplaced our motivation somewhere. Then the O and F dropped shortly after McGovern lost that landslide election to Nixon. It just never got fixed, and we sort of got used to it. And then the E and D stopped working. Just suddenly wouldn't light up anymore. That was the time that Hendricks and Abby Hoffman and Janice were all lost to us. Anyway, all that was left for people driving by to see, besides the vacancy sign, was Cirrhosis Motel. We decided we had to fix it and got what we needed at the hardware store. But then that Reagan landslide happened. That was when we realized our motel sign was really some kind of Ouija board from another dimension, some power greater than ours, a kind of alien cultural anthropologist probe taking the temperature of our human condition. We decided to leave it alone. After all, we just lost Kurt Vonnegut and Studs Terkel, and we felt this thing new. Ever since then, we haven't gone near it. I didn't actually learn about the events of 9/11 for several months, 2 or 3, almost 3 months. And so I'll just read a little passage from that. It was a very interesting experience. I didn't actually learn about the events of 9/11 until nearly 3 months after the event. I woke up slowly around noon on the day of 9/11 and still lying in bed called the phone company to check on my bill and heard a recording saying they were temporarily closed due to a national emergency. I don't know why, but I resisted the impulse to turn on the radio or television. The first uncensored feeling to rise up in me was maybe at last everyone's in the same boat. Maybe we can finally get America's attention off the business as usual stock market, that Frankenstein creation which doesn't cope with uncertainty any better than its creator, and onto human agendas. Maybe a thunder and lightning voice has parted the clouds and yelled down angrily, nobody needs health care, all they need is health insurance. Nobody needs health insurance, all they need is health care. While I was lying there wrestling with the curiosity and the urge to turn on the TV and contend with the spin cycle of emotions I knew that would generate, I found myself suddenly interested in the space I was occupying, its feeling. I began to feel like the vitality of my awareness was being enhanced or sharpened in some way, imagination given access to new possibilities, a cocoon containing a kind of infinite permission that had formerly been hidden. There was a kind of giddy lightness in this novel ignorance, an almost illicit sweetness that seemed to carry within it new aspects of reality ordinarily denied to us. I decided to continue my quarantine of current events. What I didn't know suddenly seemed as important as what I did know, just as negative numbers have a function in math. It felt as though I had discovered a secret form of occult happiness that hovered in those dim borders at the far edge of imagination journeying, teasing me like a ghost wind. I began to feel like a spy in reverse, carrying an important secret without content. So I decided to conduct an experiment, namely to see how I could be a modern-day information Robinson Crusoe without an island, in fact in a rather large metropolitan city. All I knew was that something somewhere had happened. I decided under the urging of some perverse inner imp to see how long I could maintain that virginity. I would eliminate radio and television, avoid the newspaper headlines and stories, wear earplugs in public, and deliver stern warnings to friends to say nothing to me about it. Anyway, that was it. It's a very interesting experiment. Give you a chance to try it with something. Good. Have fun. This is called On Thinking About Thinking and Feeling and Seeing and Knowing. There's thinking, there's an epigraph. Our main problem at the present time is that we still don't understand our thought and feeling processes. The Princeton professor of psychology. There's thinking and feeling and seeing and knowing, the knowing that comes from feeling and seeing and thinking. Sometimes there's thinking, which you think is knowing, and then there's just knowing without thinking. Like when you're feeling, or maybe feeling is just a kind of thinking that knows, whereas thinking is like eating without swallowing, just a kind of knowing. Thinking, you know the way out of the forest you are lost in. The way believing is an almost kind of knowing, a wished-for kind of knowing that's needed. When you realize you're lost in the forest, but think you see the way out, but don't know if it's the right way out, or even if the forest you are lost in is the same forest you thought you were lost in, which you need to know, but know that you don't. Maybe believing is what you do when there's nothing else left to do, when you think there's nothing else left to do, or when you feel there's nothing else left to do, because You know, you can never know that there is nothing else left to do or see, that there is nothing else left to do. Try to think of seeing nothing, what it would feel like. Just imagine. I'm going to go with a quick little paragraph from Bill Holm, a Minnesota poet. He said, sacredness is unveiled to you through your own experience and lives in you to the degree that you accept that experience as your teacher, mother, state, church, even, or perhaps particularly, if it comes into conflict with the abstract received wisdom that power always tries to convince you to live by. One of power's unconscious functions is to rob you of your own experience by saying, we know better. Whatever you may have seen or heard, whatever cockeyed story you come up with, we are principle. And if your experience contradicts us, why then you must be guilty of something. Power, whether church, school, state, family, lover, or friend, usually does this at first in a charming way, while feeding you chocolate cake, compliments, bread and wine, advanced degrees, tax shelters, grant programs, and a strong national defense. Only when contradicted does it show its true face. Kill it inside you fast, or do whatever damage seems practical in the outer world. Next, put your arms around everything that has ever happened to you and give it an affectionate squeeze. This is what you will see on your own night drive, your private stash of beloved. That was good. Love poem for a friend of mine, Randy Friels. Even now you are never farther than my last thought, always closer than the promised pain of your final absence. It would have been easier had we not shared the secret colors together, or if the sun had not turned twice to meet us, playing on the bright open fields of your living room rug. It settled quietly on everything like gold dust. Thank you.
This would be a good time to just thank the people like Dennis who are willing to drive across that big, scary I-5 bridge to be with us every month. Thank you, Dennis. And we're going to hear from Angeline Yin.
Okay, so we need a little background information here. This week is National Mental Health Awareness Week, and today is actually World Mental Health Day. And the theme for this year's World Mental Health Day is mental health in the elderly. So today I started writing this poem, and I would not normally bring in something unfinished, but I decided I would go ahead and read this first draft of the first stanza of the poem. Because for this poem, I'm writing about people that I know personally or are that one step away, so it's someone who I know personally knows someone else. And this particular part of the poem is about someone I know's grandmother, and she is 99, and she might die any day now, so I wanted to make sure I read it tonight, even though it's not done. So, and one more little piece of information. 1 in 4 adults will experience mental illness in any given year. So, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 2, the grandmother. She cannot remember it now, but she made her granddaughters promise not to bring her to the building they tried to call a home for nursing. She made them promise not to leave her when she became obsolete. Her granddaughters remember the promise when their grandmother becomes bedridden. They do not leave her, but sometimes she leaves them, goes to a world that overlaps this one, a transparency with images so that a granddaughter is covered in corn until the granddaughter takes a rag from this world and wipes off her body, what only her grandmother can see. Still, they do not leave her, but sometimes she leaves them, becomes a different person. She is no longer their loving grandmother. She is anger, whose sharp words struck her granddaughters, leaving their hearts bleeding in their promise. Number 2, memory loss, hallucinations, personality change. The grandmother, Alzheimer's.
Wisp of a Rural Childhood Recollection for Doug Smith and Angela Luna. Sometimes the lattice work of the veil emerges before the eyes like floating tendrils swimming, curling in upon itself like a vortex. Portal self-created, additional opening sigh like hungry pores. Myoclonic revelation made suddenly external. Long-hidden memory struggles to manifest. Insight on the tip of your recall. Like a recurring bronze sheet, born anew from escaped synapse eel convulsion, skipping toward awaiting sunlight. The path makes itself known, will not remain still, will not behave. Pops and twitches, demanding acknowledgement, fascinated with these rituals, collective unconscious, called forth, made flesh, mind's recesses rendered physically, maddeningly inaccessible, finally ineffable, ultimately unattainable. So that was my response to a painting by a painter named Doug Smith. Much easier to respond to a painting than it is to write about painting. And this is a sneak preview of what you'll see from me on October 28th if you're able to make it over to the Verse in Person reading at the Northwest Branch Library. And really, one of my favorite pieces of mine, because it's one of those things that I was carrying around with me for a long time and really wanted to get down on paper, and then it finally presented itself to me. Loving poetry is like being a fan of horror movies, so enamored with the genre that you are willing to sit through movies that are completely moronic and not at all scary, in the hopes of catching that one unique concept or cool character or original way of dispatching with someone. The basketball, which completely obliterates a person's head in that piece of shit, Deadly Friend, or the fully grown adult male who claws his way out of the woman who has been raped by an alien in Extra. You stick with it to the end because you love it, fully realizing that they can't all be The Exorcist, The Omen, or Night of the Living Dead, can't all be Cronenberg, Argento, Luton, Whale, or Carpenter. Dig? Sometimes you think about the youngsters, or maybe the people who've just been too scared to go to the movies with something like that, and think, well, if the least I could do with the poem is get them to go and watch a couple of those movies, then I accomplished something. So anyway, we'll have some fun with some more stuff like that over at the library. I want to thank you all for your energy, your poetry, your time. I want to thank Mel and Mark and Cover to Cover for staying open late for us, as always. And a big thank you and much respect to Clip Schutz of San Francisco, California. Thank you for making your way all the way here. And my friend, and really one of the people that's really been loyal to this series and really always given us something to think about, Rob Gurley. We really had a great time. So on the next second Thursday, we will have Maggie Chula. And we just have 2 more to go in 2013. In December, we will have Christy Krug, who I believe some of you are aware of. So we'll see you here, same time next month. Thank you so much.